Welcome to Cyber Therapy. I am Ashley, Senior Manager at JupiterOne, and I'm here with my co-host, Tyler Shields.
Hey everybody, good
Hi.
to see you, hear from you, talk to you again. It's been a little bit since I think I've been on the show. I was on a couple weeks ago, if I remember correctly. Ash, is that right?
Yeah, I got to tune in from RSA, and you were back there with Fathead Tyler over there.
Exactly. For those that are on audio only, Fathead Tyler is making another appearance back here behind me. But no, we're doing good. We have some pretty awesome guests coming on in the future. What have you been up to this week? What have you got going on this week, Ashley? Anything fun? I saw you
Before I
walked
get
your
into
cat
that,
over the weekend.
yes. So before I get to that real quickly, if you're new to the show, feel free to hit that subscribe button, the bell so that you get notified for all our new episodes and whatnot. If you're listening to us on LinkedIn, feel free to follow us, our page on there. You'll get updated with all the new episodes of Cyber Therapy and 100x Engineering, which is a new video podcast show that we started. But yes, as Tyler was saying earlier, I managed to walk my cat over the weekend in his cat backpack. Not unfortunately with the leash. He still does his little drop dead kind of roll when I put the leash on him because he doesn't want to walk with it. But yeah, it managed. It was a pretty decent weather, no monsoons yet, and it was like in the 70s at like 10 o'clock in the morning. So perfect time, perfect weather to go walk my cat.
Yeah, and usually when people say things like, "Hey, can you do that again? I was busy walking my cat." It's usually because they're lying and they just want to see you do that thing again. But no, truthfully, Ashley does actually walk her pet cat.
Yes, I do.
All right.
What about you?
Well,
What's been new for
oh,
you?
no, I'm just getting over a lovely little bout with our friend the COVID. So I'll be going on and off of mute quite frequently, um, dealing with that. Other than that, man, just working a whole lot. Hanging out with Fathead Tyler over here behind me and getting our job done, having a bourbon here and there wherever I can. So that's been me in a nutshell. I don't have a whole lot. I'm kind of boring lately. So why don't
It's
we
all
dive right
good.
in? Oh, before we dive right in, Ashley did mention subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Twitter. That does go a long way. I don't know how much you guys understand or know about content creation, but there's certain hurdles you have to get through before you can do promotions and other things. And it'll mean a lot to us if you do both of these things. Click subscribe. Even if you don't click notify, click subscribe to our channels, as well as go on your Twitter, go on your social media, and tell others if you enjoy the show. So, with that being said, what do you say we go ahead and get ready to bring our next guest on? Sound good?
Yes, I am so excited to have Daniel Miessler on the show. He is the creator of the Unsupervised Learning community, and there's just like a plethora of information. So please, everybody, give a round of applause
Welcome,
for Daniel
Daniel.
Miessler.
Yeah,
Welcome,
thanks for
Daniel.
having me.
Absolutely. I said this before when we had another. I think he's also a friend of yours, but another guest of ours come on the show. Clint Gibbler. I said the same thing about him that I'm going to say about you is that two of the smartest people in the industry, and the best thing about that level of smart and that level of cool is you're friendly enough to share it with others, and that goes such a long way. It goes such a long way in it's not just about collection of facts and collection of data and hoarding that data and becoming better for oneself. It's giving back to the community, it's giving back to others, and building a community on the back of that. So I don't sugarcoat it when I say that you are two of the coolest, smartest people that I know in the industry. So thanks for coming on the show, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, Clint's awesome.
He is absolutely. Maybe Ash, how do you want to start this off? You want to start this off with a little bit of storytelling and background, or
Anecdote?
what's your opener?
Yeah, I mean, also I can dig into it. So when I started looking at your website, Daniel, I was blown away by the amount of information on there that it made this very difficult to actually pull out things that we want to talk about to read. So anybody, if you're listening, danielmiessler.com, amazing, documented. So take me back to when you first started this. What drove you to just start memorializing all your thoughts and learnings into a website format?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing was my very first job out of school was working a night shift doing like IDS monitoring and like security monitoring. And at the time I was deep diving into like TCP/IP and I was like obsessed with it and like understanding packet headers and everything. And I decided to just write down how to explain it to somebody because I needed to explain it to myself. So as I was learning, I was just writing it in my own words to myself. And I started doing that for more and more topics. And then people were like, oh, I really like these. And then it just kind of became a thing. So it was kind of accidental.
But
Nice.
was there conscious thought behind it saying, "Hey, I'm going to memorialize all this content for someone someday. I'm going to keep it forever," or did it start as a a positive
Hobby.
happenstance where it's like, "Hey, let's do this one topic." TCP/IP packet headers to start with. All right, let's here's some other cool ones. Boom, boom, boom. All right, let's organize this a little better. And did it kind of grow organically, or did you right out of the gate say, "Hey, people might like this, and if people might like this, then maybe I should give it a landing spot, a home to be able to collect all of this amazing information."
Yeah, no, it was definitely organic. It wasn't until years later that I realized that I had a compendium of multiple at that point, and then it kind of became a thing. But at first, it was just like I was interested in web technology, so I wanted to build that anyway. So I was just kind of taking notes publicly. But back then, I mean, there just wasn't that much web traffic for that type of stuff.
Mhm.
Like no one really cared, so just wasn't really a thing. So it became a thing later.
Yeah, I wish I would have had your foresight to whether it's foresight or accidental happenstance, but to collect and keep all of my musings way back. We do for those that don't know the listeners that don't know, we do a prep call and we talk about some of this stuff ahead of time, so we have a general idea of the flow of how this call is going to go. And I told Daniel I had those black and white ruled notebooks dating back to 1997, from 97 through like all of the dot-com crash through like 2002, that whole window, handwritten notebooks of a company I joined that IPO'd, that went to astronomical heights, that eventually completely crashed through the floor. And I really wish I would have kept that. But it's funny, you don't necessarily think ahead of, hey, let's keep that forever and, memorialize it digitally, et cetera. But what's neat is I think we're living in a time where there's almost no reason not to. Like back then, you had to pay a certain amount per megabyte of storage or gigabyte of
Hmm.
storage, and it got expensive, and so you eventually pared stuff down. And but today, storage is relatively infinite,
Yeah.
relatively $0. So would you tell someone, hey, today, if you're going to keep track of your life in a journal, online journal, digital journal, whatever you want to talk about it, plan on keeping it forever. Like this stuff can always come back, and kind of that knowledge cycle could help you someday.
I would generally say so. I think there could be some caveats there. It depends what you're writing in your journal, and if you have some sort of flag in your editor, and suddenly like you flag all your private posts to public, and Google crawls them, and then it
Oops.
gets sent to the Wayback Machine.
Oops. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Are you speaking
Does
from
Um,
that end well?
experience there?
no, it's not happened to me yet, but it could happen.
So it sounded like you start with just technology. At what point did you start branching out and documenting like your thoughts on life and the nature of free will, and like there's a wide range of things that you talk about on your website. So I'm curious, kind of, just that was just personal growth, personal exploration, or how
Yeah,
did that kind of transpire?
yeah, interesting question. So similar to Tyler, I actually had Moleskine books all the way back to 1996 of every thought. So it was like more like a journal, but it
Mhm.
wasn't like here's how I felt about a thing today. It was more like thoughts that I thought might be interesting. So I migrated those over almost immediately. I want to say maybe movable type might have been one of the first blog technologies that I used.
Hmm.
But I've used like 15 over the years. But so I brought that stuff over and I was doing the technical journals at the same time. So it was kind of happening all at the same time. And I was kind of dumping everything.
Mhm.
I would say I probably figured out maybe around 2001, 2002 that I should just collect everything. And that's probably when it happened.
Nice. And then at what point did you actually start the formal unsupervised learning community?
And
Because it
and
sounds like that's a
actually,
natural evolution of your documentation, right?
let me take a step back. For the like 4 people in cybersecurity that don't know about it, can you tell us a little bit about what it is, what it consists of, right? What is the community that you've built?
Yeah, so unsupervised learning is kind of an overall umbrella of the idea of collecting knowledge and sharing knowledge, and just it turned into a community. We have a Slack community and stuff like that. But I just love the idea of so first of all, it's a technical thing inside of AI, as I'm sure both of you know, but it's also a play on words for like learning in a curiosity or exploration type of way, as opposed to like strictly informal. So I thought it was just interesting play on words. And honest, it was essentially the name of the podcast and the name of the newsletter. The podcast actually started before the newsletter, but that started to answer your question, Ashley, in 2015.
So started the podcast first, 2015. Again, a little bit pre other podcasts, right? I mean, that was a little bit on the early side.
There were a few OGs out there, but only a handful. There's a handful of OGs. Steve Gibson. There's a few people who were out there very early.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, it was very early in 2015.
And then on the back of that came a written newsletter, which what would you say is the most popular component within unsupervised newsletter community, right? You've got the Slack, you've got the newsletter, you've got the podcast. What do you think gives you the biggest reach today?
Newsletter is more important right now. And it's just what people prefer. It's like, and this changes and it'll probably change again. You just have to flow with it. Blogs used to be everything. When my domain started, like there was heavy traffic to blogs because everyone was reading blogs, and that's because of RSS. So when RSS died, blogs kind of died as well, and people basically fragmented into YouTube and into newsletters, and people don't want to change formats or mediums. So if they have to check their email anyway, they'd rather just get the content in their email. And also, when you have a show like mine where it's a lot of content, it's easier to skim visually with your eyes.
And how long is your show? How long is each episode? An hour?
No. So audio wise, it's like 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I try to just blast through it and just have a lot of coverage in a short amount of time. But if you read the whole newsletter and you click a lot of links, yeah, it could take half an hour or an hour.
Gotcha. Yeah, I read your newsletter this morning in minute detail. It probably took me about a good 45 minutes to get through all the content, clicking on the articles that piqued my interest that I wanted to double click on and deep dive for sure.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little about your Slack community for a minute, because I'm in a lot of different Slack communities and they are kind of all over the board in terms of amount of activity and like how open people are with what they're working on and whatnot. How has that, when did you start it? How has that evolved? And how do you moderate it to keep it interesting and people active in it?
Yeah. I would say it started a couple of years back, and the vibe is very much around just curious people getting together to share curiosity. It also spun up right around the time of the pandemic. So I've had a number of conversations with people inside of the community, because we also have a book club. So we get together, and it's like, it was just very needed during the pandemic. So there's a few different aspects. There's like, obviously there's a heavy tech and security focus for a lot of us there, but a lot of us there are not actually heavy tech or heavy security. It's more curiosity based, because we have a lot of readers. It's a heavy reading community, right? So you get that all together, and then you have a lot of stuff going on in the world with world events and politics. And what we have that I've been very careful to cultivate this, is essentially a place where you could talk about things and assume the best of the other person so that you're able to say more. You're able to be your more authentic self. We've got people there from all different angles of political persuasion. And they can say things they can't say other places. and have everyone say, okay, that sounds bad, but I know you're a good person, therefore you probably mean this. And we have these amazing conversations. And I've got a couple of quotes from different people who have joined the community and just given great feedback about that. And it's probably the thing I'm most happy with in the community.
If you don't mind me digging a little more, that sounds like it's a very delicate balance to have. So are you personally moderating every single conversation in like,
No,
okay.
no,
Oh.
I'm not. And I hardly ever have to step in. Occasionally people get a little flared up and excited about a topic or whatever. And I'll just kind of gently remind that these are what we're doing here. We're following these rules, and people back off and they step off and they reallow the humanity of the other person. And we haven't really had any incidents. It's been fantastic. And the other thing is we have a lot of kind of original members inside of the community who also help just regulate. So for example, if we have a rule about when you post a link, say something about it, bring something to the table in addition to the link. So it's not just a scrolling list of links. To your point, Ashley, of like, it's easy for Slack communities to die or to become uninteresting. But what we're trying to do is, ultimately, I'm trying to connect people. I think a lot of the problems we have in the world, I think, are due to a lack of connection. This book I'm actually writing a summary on right now. It's all about what actually leads to happiness. And I just read a book from Dunbar as well about it, around friendship. And it's like human connection is number one, period. And so that's why I think communities are so critical. And here's the other thing that's amazing that's happened. So many close friendships have happened as a result of the community. And they now talk separately. They have their own Slack calls or whatever. And I think just connecting people using this tech is really fun.
So, is this how you saw? Did you see at all, like early on, like, hey, this could turn into something that we can pull people together with, go extend beyond cybersecurity? Talk philosophy, talk other concepts that for those that have not been to Daniel's website, there are amazing content pieces that are not necessarily cybersecurity related content pieces, right? They're everything from human centric to government centric to cyber centric to you name it. And it do you foresee the community staying cyber focused or being cyber focused, or do you want this to expand into more of a cultural community in a broader sense?
No, I would like it to expand. I think it already has expanded. I think fundamentally it's a bunch of humans together, and we're also a bunch of readers. And our job happens to be security and tech, right? And I think it's always going to have a security and tech lean, just because that's the lens I see through so many things through. But I love the concept of I think there's a universal umbrella around security, actually, if you take it to the highest level. So one of my favorite things about security is the etymology of the word, which is se and kura. So without worry. So it's beautiful, right? Because you're imagining, I want to be allowed to let my kids to go play on the countryside. Let's say it's 500 years ago or something. It's like, are they safe to go out there and play in the countryside? Like, are roving bandits going to come over and attack them? Are there wolves out there? So if I can not worry, then I have security. So if you look at anxiety, you look at all the problems that are plaguing us as a society, it's like, I would like to pursue a place where we don't have worry. So sure, I'm worried about being hacked. I'm worried about all these different technical things, but if there are other worries that are more important, like a lack of meaning, then I'm pursuing those as well. And for me, it's still Sakura, still without worry.
This 100% gives me throwback vibes to, and I don't know how far back your history experience in cyber goes, Daniel, but throwback vibes to the well, throwback vibes to the cypherpunks mailing list, throwback vibes to those kind of, I forget the Grateful Dead guy that moderated one of them, right? Like throwback to that vibe where it's more than just cybersecurity and cypherpunk discussions, tech discussions, but actually how that impacts humanity and how we
That's
can
right.
use some of that technology and use some of that learnings, whether it's technology or human or process, to better humanity at large. And it's such a wonderful ideal. Um, and I mean, I think it's cool as hell to be able to target something like that on a broader capacity. So the more we can get the word out about about the unsupervised learning community as a whole, the more I'm going to get behind that. So, um, you know, it's interesting in today's society, today's world. The saying "content is king." Creation of content is, kind of the new frontier, both
Hmm.
in as far as consumed and consumable content, as far as monetization and making money and building businesses. Content seems to be really starting to dominate in a lot of areas, and I'm seeing this actually happen in cyber. And I have a few thoughts on this that someday over a mocktail or cocktail with you, together the two of us could debate some of these things. But what's your thoughts on financial gatekeeping of some of this content, right? Because there's kind of this underlying freedom of information. Let's help the world grow, help the world become better. But I think at some point it loses its capability to be accurate and have reach when it's completely free, right? Because there's no gates to limit um, people just spewing anything out there, right? Everything devolves into kind of that Reddit black hole or that 4chan commentary black hole when you leave it completely free. So there's got to be some kind of balance, whether it's moderated checks and things like that. What do you think about the gatekeeping of information, and how, as an industry, can we improve, as the cybersecurity industry as a whole, can we improve our, I guess, capabilities around information sharing and improving everyone by leveling up, by sharing content, by sharing, indicators, compromise, attack data, all sorts of things like that. What's your thought about charging for that versus saying, hey, let's just make all content free? And I
Yeah,
know that's a super difficult philosophical question,
yeah,
but
it's a difficult one. I would
given your
say,
background, I think you're well more qualified than anybody else to comment on it.
yeah, I would say one thing that shapes this quite a bit is real quick, hold on.
For those of you that don't know, Daniel's got a cough too, so he's gone on mute to cough right there.
Yeah, we're both a little
Exactly.
sick here. Um, so I think psychology shapes this quite a bit. One thing is humans tend to see things that are plentiful and abundant and unlimited as not having value.
Hmm.
So if you have some sort of charge for the thing and the person has tangibly committed by saying, I'm going to pay you X amount, even if it's a very low amount, now that exchange now has more value to both sides. And I think that's a key thing. Um, and that's what I would say about the security side of it. There's a lot more to say about how you can actually produce content and do it consistently, because that's the key to this whole game, I think.
Well, let's double click on that for a second. You said some really cool things about how you manage your own personal time and how you're able to put out. So, for those that don't know, Daniel also has a full time job, right? The unsupervised learning, well, probably a 40 plus hour work week for him directly as is on top of a 40 plus hour work week for a paying employer, right? So, how do you manage that workload? You gave me a couple tips that I just don't know if I can follow. I just don't know if I have the discipline to follow it. So tell us how you manage to deliver on that volume, that quantity, and that quality all simultaneously.
Yeah, so I would say unsupervised learning currently is more like between 10 and 20 hours. Because just during the course of my day, I'm always consuming. So I'm consuming from Feedly and I'm sending over to Pocket. Pocket is where I'm aggregating all my stuff. So collection happens gently all the way up through Sunday. Sunday morning is when I spend like another 6 to 7 hours. Um, there's an unfortunate thing that happens often on Sunday morning is I'll start reading the stories and essay ideas will pop into my head. And when I'm supposed to be writing the show, I will go off and produce like two or three actual small essays. and then it'll be like 6 p.m. and I'm like, oh crap, I still have to do the show. But that's a good problem to have, to feel inspired by creativity. But Sunday is the day for producing, right? So if I have not collected everything, I then collect everything. I send it over to Pocket, and then from Pocket, I then refilter again to what's going to go in the show. So that all said can go up to like, it could be over 20 hours a week.
Wow.
Yeah. Especially when you count sometimes, 6-7 hours on Sunday just by itself.
Wow. Yeah, no, the discipline required to do that for 6 years now, since the
Yeah.
show started. That's pretty impressive. So I read something this morning, actually. Like you, I chew through content pretty regularly, and it was a commentary about entrepreneurship. And this
Mm-hmm.
particular piece of commentary was saying, in the previous lives of entrepreneurship, we would sit down and create a product, and in many lives ago, that product might take a year to create, and then you put
Mm-hmm.
it out to market, and you hope like hell it hits product market fit, right? And we've
Mm-hmm.
worked on ways to lower the risk pretty significantly around that product by having agile development models and working directly with the market and working directly blah blah blah. So what this article kind of posited was, what if you took the concept of product centric, where all of the business components, marketing, sales, customer success, everything else revolved around the outside of, hey, we got to create a product first, and flip that on its head, and instead say, hey, let me build an audience first. Let me build a market first, and then
Mm.
see if I can create some products that actually can be monetized within that market. And in some ways, that's almost what you've done. It's similar to what I think Clint has done by creating a community of like-minded people with similar concepts and similar thoughts, and how they operate. You've built the market, and now you've created the product to fit into that market based off of what they want and what they need. Is this, in your opinion, an interesting way to maybe start to think about how we create our businesses as a whole? Is, instead of focusing on product first and product centric, and what's the gap that the product can fill, really focusing on who's the buyer, what do they want, and let's go build that, and really focus on creating a group of demand first, because that's kind of what you guys have achieved, right? It's what you have achieved inside of unsupervised learning.
Yeah, but I wonder though. I feel like you still have an egg chicken problem there, because you had to produce the content first for them to come.
Ah,
Once they get there, now you have the community. Then you decide what they need. You provide the content. Then more come. But you can't start with audience, because you don't have an audience until you produce the content for them to come out of the woodwork.
interesting.
So
So
a little bit of egg chicken, and then it oscillates back and forth.
I think that's another one of those mocktail cocktail discussions for you and I, because I think we could beat
Yeah.
that up pretty deeply. I think that's an interesting one. Um, Ashley, do you want to take the next one?
Well, personally, I wanted to actually double click on that
Go for it.
because um, one of the things is, so one, what are your thoughts on the phrase content creator? And I'm going to go off on this tangent because you have to create content in order to build an audience, right? And then to be able to float ideas. It's continuing down basically what you already said with the egg and chicken problem.
Mm-hmm.
As a newbie content creator, I'm finding it very difficult to um, not only focus on, well, I guess maybe it's just a blend of my own weird idiosyncrasies and like passions, because cybersecurity and BTS don't necessarily go hand in hand, but that's what you're going to get on my Twitter feed, right?
Yeah.
So, how, what advice would you give to somebody who is new to building their audience, right? Um, as a content creator, right? I put that in quotes because everything you say and do is content. So there's that. Yeah. What advice would you have? Because you end up basically attracting people who may not be the same cross section of everything that you like. So is it better to just focus on a niche and just niche down and then not share everything? Or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I've got some strong thoughts here. So can't remember the name of the director, but a couple years back, a Korean director won Oscar for Parasite.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he had the most amazing answer. They were like, "Oh, how do you come up with all this creativity?" And he said, "The most personal is the most creative."
Mm.
And it's actually a Scorsese quote. I think he was in the audience, but I found this fascinating. And what I've come to work out from this is, I think, really powerful. So essentially, I think a lot of us build ourselves based on what a partner needs, or most importantly, what a company needs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're only harvesting parts of yourself that you think are needed by these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're crossing into is a threshold of a new world in which you're broadcasting your full self.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what's really interesting is you have to figure out what your actual broadcast is. You have to figure out what you want to emote.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes it requires you to actually go in and restoke those things. It's like, am I actually supposed to be doing music? Do I like art? Do I even like tech? Right?
Uh-huh.
Um, I wanted to be a marine biologist. Why don't I get back into that? So that's where a lot of paralysis comes from a creator, is like, what actually should I be creating content about? Once you figure that out, and for the lucky people who are like, no, I know exactly what it is,
Mm-hmm.
well, then it's just a matter of turning that to a higher volume. And then what you do is you produce any sort of content that broadcasts, that emotes that. And the
Mm-hmm.
best thing to do is to just ignore the mediums. It's like, oh, it's called YouTube today, whatever. It's called TikTok tomorrow. Like, those are all just syndication locations. What happens is you have this internal fire. You make sure there's fuel on the fire. You make
Mm-hmm.
sure it's broadcasting out. And then you have like this separate process, which is like, oh, that one needs to be a video. Let's make audio of that one, or whatever. And then you're like, okay, what are the syndication places? Okay, let's put it over there. And what happens is people hear an authentic self. And if you continue to broadcast that, in my opinion, you win. I think and what's really fun is encouraging other people to do it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost, in my mind, if you read like Harari and stuff, I feel it's an evolution of humanity, right? Because we used to only produce a resume. A resume was what most people ever produced to indicate what they were.
Mm-hmm.
How sad is it that a resume is designed for a company,
Mm-hmm.
not for you?
Mm-hmm.
It's not your representation of the world. So where's your representation of the world? In the 1950s or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's amazing that we're moving into a place where people can actually be encouraged to be themselves and to put it out there.
But that doesn't
So
come without
then,
risk, right, Daniel? That doesn't come without risk, because if you put your true authentic self out there, and your true authentic self is, you know, contrary to popular belief, or there is always some level of risk that comes with putting that out there. And I think there's a certain hurdle you have to get past as a content creator, being okay with not having full approval from the entire universe, right? Like, some people aren't going to like the fact that that I talk about fathead, or use the word fat when I talk about fathead Tyler here behind me, right? Like,
Sure.
I could get in trouble for using that term, but at some point, like, the trolls are going to troll, and the negatives are going to be negative, and people who disagree with you, they would just naturally, become attrition from your audience. Hopefully, if done right, right? Sometimes they'll stick around just to give you a headache, but in general, they should become attrition from your audience, leaving you with people that like what you're producing. And, that's, I guess, the risk is worth the reward in that case.
Yeah, exactly. And when I say be the full self, I mean, there are aspects of humanity that are private, right? And some creators might choose to bring all of that. I'm saying there's an 80% that's like, fit for public consumption. And I think fully embracing into that. Like, if you're a gamer, if you're an artist or whatever, you're a musician, people might have been more reluctant to share things about that before. One thing I learned very recently is share your secrets. They're very powerful. Share your secrets. Like, all the best content creators out there, they're like, let me show you the top 10 ways I made money and turned my business into what's it called. And they show all their books. They show all the tricks and all the stuff that they used. And rather than like someone just stealing that and saying, now I don't need you anymore. Now you've just broadcast as authentic, and people keep coming back.
Yeah. And
For
at
a
the end of the
second,
day, it's not the books or the tricks that got you there. It's the
That's right.
process, the continued deliver of the workload to get there, right? And not, I mean, that alone is enough of a hurdle to block most people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ash.
so the next layer of like complication or complexity, I guess, to being a content creator is monetizing it in a way, uh monetization, right? Making it your living so that it can be your full time and the only gig you have to pay attention to. So, can you talk me through a little bit about uh, your thinking process into monetizing? Um, it feels like a yucky word to me, but monetizing unsupervised learning and like how your philosophy on that, I guess. Because it's basically all your head knowledge that you're sharing with the world and your app and its access to this really precious community that everybody's curious and helpful with each other, right? So they're somewhat paying for the safety net of that, of the security of the
Sure.
community itself. So can you talk to me just a little bit of your thinking behind uh, how you pull that together?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing a pure membership model and slowly started phasing in sponsors as well. So sponsors is kind of the primary way to make good money in content space. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually helping a number of creators on the security side try to like 10x their stuff very quickly. So they have really strong YouTube followings, which is
Mm-hmm.
not translating to very much money at all. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
if they were to simply find a great vendor, a great company that's awesome that they love, whatever it is, Athletic Greens, Pen Tester Labs, or something, and just do like a 6-minute video about that thing with the same production quality of what they're doing in their regular content,
Mm-hmm.
they could charge 10 grand for that, 20 grand for that, and do one a week in addition to their other videos. Now they're making 10, 20x what they were making off of, YouTube view stats. Um, so sponsorships are just so powerful because there are marketing groups sitting with bags of money waiting to give it to somebody because conferences, well, you two probably know better than me. Conferences are hit or miss, right? It's a lot of money. It's a lot of effort. Are you really getting callbacks or whatever? As opposed to having someone who's actually enthusiastic about that space and
Mm-hmm.
has a community that's interested in that space, and you're going to have a semi, personal pitch for that thing. It's way more valuable.
So how did you get started with sponsorships? Because I gotta imagine, I don't know if you just asked friends that, hey, I've got this new thing, I'm starting it. Would you mind sponsoring and paying me money? Like, did that ever feel icky to ask your friends for that? Like, I don't know. I feel a little bit weird in that respect, but that might just be me. So,
Yeah, I mean, the one way I would think about it is, those groups that have the bags of money, it is their job to find good places to give it to.
Absolutely.
mhm.
So you shouldn't feel bad about it, right? You just make sure it's it's a
It's
two-way
in,
exchange, right? You're both getting some kind
right.
of benefit from it. The way that I did it was I started with a giant list of products that I would love to talk about, right? And I started reaching out to people and saying, hey, I do this show, been doing it since 2015. I charge this amount. Is that fine? I eventually scaled that to having someone else asking about it,
Hmm.
which is a little bit more professional sounding. Like, you don't want to talk about yourself in the third person while you're trying to get money from a marketing department, right? So it's
Right.
like, have someone else involved, um, and be professional about it. Like
Hmm.
scheduling, you're going to be on here. Here's the ROI you're getting from it, and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and that's on the sponsorship side. For memberships, where I'm at there is just a flat like membership for a year,
Hmm.
and it's annual, and like
Hmm.
basically it's all you can eat. Once you're in, you're in. You get access to everything. Just super simple.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of people who have like multiple tiers, and you can get different things. But the biggest thing you have to avoid as a content creator is not placing friction in front of you that stops you from creating.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to overpromise, like I'm going to have a video every day, because there are people who burn themselves out. Like I know creators in the gaming space, so many streaming spaces, security space. They push for like 3 months or whatever, and then they're massively burned out. Plus, if they're trying to do a day job at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
it's just too much. And then you overpromise, you underdeliver. The audience. And the other thing about that is if you're pushing that hard, you get super worried that the moment you let off the gas, someone's going to look at someone else's content. And now you've got FOMO, and it's like, oh, they're taking my people. And it's like, it's just a very unhealthy thing. So what I try to do is focus. Let's not think about the community. Let's not think about publishing. Let's not think about anything except for this book. The book is the content, which I personally believe is amazing. I'm going to share that book. And I think that the people who are part of this community are also going to like it. And if you just focus internally on that content, I think it saves you quite a bit.
So I want to take a slight detour back off of content creation as a storyline here and jump back onto a security storyline here. There are so many cybersecurity professionals that I've talked to that are just super smart cybersecurity people, and that's wonderful. But what I like about you, Daniel, is that you've got the breadth of philosophy and you've got the breadth of other readings that you know others may or may not have. So I'm going to ask you a specific question that I didn't prep you for, so I hope it doesn't hit you too much by surprise. But
I trained for this.
yeah, he's been running this marathon many, many times. Given your experiences now for 25 years or roughly 25 years in the industry, what have you seen that has changed? Like, hey, this has been a drastic change from 96 to 2006 to 2016 to 2026. What are the key changes in cybersecurity that we've experienced? And then the follow-on question to that will be, what's the one forward-looking trend that gives you hope around cybersecurity and the fact that, hey, maybe someday we could do this right?
Yeah, that is a tough one.
Curveball.
Yeah, I should have trained
And
more.
and it could be cybersecurity technology shifts, like maybe the movement to cloud is a massive change that has allowed us to do things in a better way. I mean, that's how I might answer it. But given your hooks to philosophy, maybe there's other things too that you think have drastically changed over the last 20 years that just make it better, make the world better.
Yeah, I've got a strange answer to this one. I think the biggest thing that's changed is having repercussions to not doing things well. So the more a company or an executive is punished, the more serious it gets. Here's what I believe the most serious reason security does not get funded and actually executed. Way more than it should, or way more than it does. And that reason is because the internet works virtually all the time.
Yeah.
Everything is almost perfect. So us in security, we look around and we just see everything's falling down. It's horrible. But the fact is, to business people and to regular users, everything's fine. So there's actually no reason to spend more money because everything is working. If we had outages all the time, if people were actually responsible for the money that was stolen from their bank accounts and not the banks, there would be pandemonium because people would stop using everything, right? So the bottom line is things won't change until they have to. And right now they don't have to. So security has this view of the world that everything is falling from the sky, but that's not the real view of the world. And I think until that changes, which one way it can change is through regulation, right? The other thing I think it's going to change is insurance. I think the more the insurance steps in, they're going to be the one group who says, let's figure out what actually makes a program good or bad. And they install something on the internal system. It can see all the packets go by and it says, you do not purchase this, you do not have this kind of program or whatever. And it might be very counterintuitive, like a lot of AI stuff where it's like, turns out everyone needs to wear red shirts on Thursdays, and that actually is the one thing that makes a difference in security programs. But they'll start mandating those things in order for premiums to be low. But once again, that's a matter of force related to money. So unless it's tangible, nothing is going to change because everything's kind of working fine.
So you don't strike me as a negative person. You strike me as a fairly optimistic person in the long term. So is it in your opinion that the future improvements in cybersecurity are going to be largely predicated on economic incentives or economic impact on potentially an individual level, on a corporate level, on a governmental level? And if we can succeed in creating incentivized situations for people to do good, the future can be positive.
Yeah, and exactly. And I don't even think we need to create them because of capitalism, because you have these insurance companies who are like, we want to insure everyone because that's more money for us. We don't want them to have to pay out because that's bad for us. And so the premium model is going to find a balance there. And then if everyone has the insurance, like I think it's eventually going to balance out, and people are going to have really good security programs because the data that the insurance companies gathered actually pointed to the real stuff. Because, you know, the last 10, 15 years, we're kind of guessing. We're like, oh, you need PCI. PCI will solve everything, you know? And we're kind of picking things that we think will work, but we don't know for sure.
Unless, of course, you know, you're Daniel Miessler and you've kept all that data back for 25 years, and then
That's right.
then everything's straight. So yes, you and I would be deadly at a pub together for a few hours. This could get really ugly. So we're bumping up against the 47-minute mark of the conversation, and this is the time at which Ashley likes to bring our game into play. So for the audience out there, again, please hit like, please hit follow. Please do a Follow Friday tweet and tell the world about cyber therapy in this show. If you like what you saw today with Daniel, please go sign up for Unsupervised Learning. Go look at his musings. They are fantastic. I think I could get lost in there for weeks or months on end in that web community. So with that, this is the time in which Ashley hopefully gives us something fun to play.
Yes. So I made a change. Originally, I was going to play a different game, but today we're going to do a general trivia.
General trivia. Oh, shoot.
Yes,
okay, that's not
general
what you told
trivia.
me.
I like surprising you, Tyler.
Clearly.
All right. So we're going to do 10 questions, and at the end, we'll just see what the score is. And if we need to do, it's whoever answers it correctly first.
Oh, so it is a speed thing.
It is a speed thing.
And so did you switch to this because you actually think that Daniel's smarter than me and you think I'll lose?
I'm not great at these games. I'm not great at these games, so
you know,
I'm pretty confident
you know
that's
that
why
I
you
like
did it.
swinging it in the favor of our guest. You know that. All right. First question. This is a softball here. Area 51 is located in which U.S. state?
Nevada.
Nevada, yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Tyler. Okay.
They better get harder than that.
It will, don't worry. What does a funambulist walk on?
Ooh. I don't even think I could Google that faster than
Tightrope?
Daniel, because I don't think I can spell it.
Yeah. Wow. Good job, Daniel. A tightrope.
What was it?
A tightrope.
Wow.
I've never heard that word ever in my life before.
But how did you figure that one out?
Because you said walk on.
Yeah.
I would have said water.
Okay. Water?
That's the only thing I could think to walk on, other than the ground.
Okay. Interesting. You're very interesting. Okay. True or false? In 2010, Twitter and the United States Library of Congress partnered together to archive every tweet by American citizens.
True.
Yeah. Mr. Miessler, 2-1.
Oh, I'm in trouble. This guy's smart.
Okay. True or false? Actually, we'll just ask for the year. The Lego Group was founded in what year?
Oh, goodness gracious. That's how about the oh gosh, I don't know the exact year. One is 52 maybe?
Yeah. 47. No idea.
Daniel is closer with it's 1932.
32.
Oh, I was gonna go 30s. Oh,
I swayed you with my anchoring in the
you
50s.
did. You anchored economy. Good stuff.
All right. What is the name of Poland in Polish?
Something that
Polska?
ends in ski is my guess.
I don't know.
Nothing. No clue.
I'll give you a half point, Tyler, because it's Polska.
Well, I said
So you were
Polska.
close.
I don't even get a half point for that because I said SKY, not
I thought I
SK.
said Polska. Didn't I say
Oh,
Polska?
did you? I did not hear you. I'm sorry.
Luckily, it's
Then
being
yes.
recorded.
Yes. So yeah, you're 4-1. Come on, Tyler.
Shoot.
I'm doing my
Continue this
best. I might just get smoked.
All right. True or false? Dihydrogen monoxide was banned due to health risks
False.
after being discovered. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't even finish, but yes, good job.
You can do ban water.
All right. What is cynophobia the fear of?
The fear of
CYNO phobia.
the fear of poison.
You got to
Color.
guess? Nope. Poison. Sorry, dogs. I was hearing your word. This is why I don't multitask, guys.
I anchored her too.
How do we get dogs from CYN?
Yeah,
that's a great question that I don't have an answer to, unfortunately.
What's the score?
All
4-2?
Yes.
4-2?
4-2, I think.
All right. Well, give me 2 more and see if I can catch up. Otherwise, I will declare defeat.
Who is the author of Jurassic Park?
Crichton.
Very good.
All right. Give us the last one, even though I'm toast.
What is the world's most expensive spice by weight?
Oh, that's a good question. For those Dune fans out there, it's probably not melange. Spice by weight, huh? Gold flake.
I'm afraid I've forgotten this one.
Saffron.
Yes.
Oh, well, what would truffles count as spice?
I don't know about that.
I don't
even know what a spice is. I have to look that up. I know what spices are, but I don't know that technical definition.
Official. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Daniel Miessler with win.
I declare myself the big loser, which is not often said on the games here because I'm super hyper competitive, so I like to win. So well done, Daniel. You kicked my tail. I didn't stand a chance in trivia, and actually, quite frankly, I don't think there's anybody that could beat you. I think you're a trivia champ. You just don't know yet.
No, I'm not all that good at it.
Sarah had it.
Sarah guessed saffron. Yep.
Nice work, Sarah.
Well done. All right.
Awesome.
Ash?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Daniel, for being on the show and for sharing all your thoughts about being a content creator, but also a security professional, sharing your knowledge with the world, creating a safe place for people to be curious and keep learning. So super appreciate what you're putting out in the world and what you're cultivating. So
absolutely.
Yeah, this was really fun. Thanks for having me.
And let me second that. Thank you, Daniel. Like I said, there's a few people that I just love picking the brain on because I think they're just really, really naturally curious, smart people that enjoy learning. And you're one of them. Clint's one of them. And this kind of series of content creators has really been exciting for me because it's neat to see how you guys think. So thank you so much for your time today. Don't take it personal, but I'm going to kick your ass off my show. I do it to all my guests. Get off my show.
We'll see you.
All right. All right. He's back in the green room. Maybe he'll hang out to say goodbye afterward. Maybe he won't. But Ashley, that was fun. You set me up for failure by bringing me in a trivia game
I know.
with a guy like that. He is way too smart to be playing trivia against.
I was inspired listening to him, and I was also inspired because Rick's here and we did a trivia too, and he also kicked your butt there. So it just had to happen.
Yes, you just like to see me lose. All right, so next episode is, I believe it's July 5th, with yet another content creator. We're bringing our third in a series of 3 content creators in. David Spark will be joining us. And Any other announcements? Anything else that we need to tell the world before we?
No, I just hope to sincerely wish all of you who are going to conferences to recover from the craziness of it. If you've gotten COVID, my heart's with you, and I hope that you continue to be healthy, recover from it. Yes, thank you, Rick. It was a low bar to beat, Tyler.
Yeah, sure. We'll try that one.
um, but for all of you who are conference goers, I think the next conference that we will be at is in July. It'll be at the AWS event at the end of July in Boston. And then we will also be gearing up for Black Hat and DEF CON, right? So with
Absolutely, and
that,
we look forward to bringing you some great content from hopefully both those venues and from our show between now and then. And yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you, Daniel, for coming on the show. We really appreciate having you, and thank you, audience, for hopping on. Please tell your friends. Right, we need to grow this audience. If you like what you saw and you enjoyed the conversation with some really smart people, that's what we look to bring every week. And yeah, we'll talk to you again in another week or two.